Great, thank you very much. So let me just share then my screen here. Oh, yeah, Vicky, I'll just wait for you to let me share. We'll get moving.
Vicky.
Okay, great, I'm there, so I can now, let's just do this for you. Wonderful. So thank you everyone for those brief introductions that you've just given with the 10 seconds. It's a pretty diverse audience, you know, from I think it was Caroline, who's kind of not got a lot going on and GDPR concerns, to Jane, who's sounds like she's right across it and loving it. So I'm going to leave some time for some questions. I've prepared a kind of a whiz through some thoughts on the current context and email marketing particularly, rather than just sort of email marketing in general. It's sort of email marketing around what's been going on over the last 8 weeks and what you need to be thinking about. You know, ask me any questions as part of the end of this call, or even separately. That's absolutely fine. I'd like to help as much as I can. My background, I've been working in email marketing for about 16 years. I live in Broadstone in Dorset, but most of the people I work with aren't in Dorset, strangely. I work with companies around the world, Canada and America and various parts of the UK, other countries. My biggest client by volume sends 90 million emails per month. And then I've got some smaller ones as well. You know, that's relatively unusual to find companies sending 90 million a month. There aren't too many in that kind of range. And I work with a range of, I'm aware of a range of solutions from MailChimp through to any of the other kind of, you know, 200 odd platforms that are around for email marketing. Most of my work is on email strategy and guidance. I get involved in kind of various different areas, truth be told, B2B, B2C companies. So that's probably enough about me. So let me push on through, starting with, there you go, there's a Marktoonist cartoon there. Some brand emails, some brand we apparently gave our email address to 3 or 4 years ago wants to know they're here for us now in these difficult times. So I'm sure you've all experienced a few emails like that over the last 8 weeks. You know, there's quite a few brands that were sending out emails expressing solidarity, you know, and messages of we're in this together. And it, you know, it really felt insincere, particularly where, you know, you hadn't been in contact with someone for 3 or 4 years. And, you know, lesson number one is people don't want to have their time wasted with email marketing. You know, people are happy to have emails, but just don't waste their time. And telling someone that we're in this together and they're there for you now is wasting their time. So, you know, that they were not a good idea for the brands that sent them those out. You know, you need to be helping customers. That's what email works best, is helping people doing things that they want. And you know, I'm not against sending email. It's actually a brilliant idea to send email mostly. You just need to send the right ones. So let me start with some general observations around kind of the C word environment, as we can call it. I don't want to mention the C word too much, but you know, it's obviously a tough time, especially for people in travel and tourism, New Forest businesses, quite a few in that kind of area. You know, nobody wanted this. It feels unfair for sure. You know, there's no easy solutions. Email marketing isn't an easy solution to the current crisis. But, you know, to quote Warren Buffett, when the tide goes out, you can see who's been swimming naked, you know, meaning businesses that were already weak are going to struggle the most. That's a reality. And to borrow some nautical terms, you know, basically people have got 3 choices at the moment. You know, they either jump ship because it's a lost cause, they're going to change course when they've options to innovate and move focus, target slightly different markets. You know, I've got a client I work with, they sell into multiple sectors. They've changed their targeting and their marketing a little bit to pivot away from the weak sectors. And you're trying to, you know, batten down the hatches and weather it through. You know, if there's a little option to do anything else, now's a good time to fix some other things in the business, or maybe get your email into a place where you can start doing it when the right time comes. So just before I kind of dig into the email, I thought it interesting. I've certainly found it fascinating seeing what's been going on. Because of the whole step change, there's been a lot of innovation, not just in marketing, but within businesses as well. And I find it particularly, fascinating. You've got people doing new product innovations. These may not be brilliant solutions, but people are thinking about what things that their company can do to help in this situation. From, how do you open a door without touching the handle? And there's lots of people coming up with ideas there. We've had drive-in cinemas returning. We've had gyms offering their equipment out for rental for home exercise. A few people setting up websites for furlonged employees to help charities and enable that connection. Locally, we've got BH Fish, which you probably have heard of, with the local fishermen haven't got anywhere to sell fish at the moment, so someone's setting up with that. In the Bundesliga in Germany, they started selling cardboard cutouts to attend the match at 19 euros each. They had 12,000 orders for 19 for cardboard cutouts. In Amsterdam, you've got people trying greenhouses to isolate on the restaurants there. In Little Washington, they're filling up the empty tables with mannequins to keep social distancing. And I heard that in Vienna, they were actually selling, kind of using the mannequins for advertising for fashion brands, so making use of that space. It's very fascinating to see how entrepreneurs are finding their way through and doing things that they never would have thought they had to do. So that's kind of the backdrop, is there is always something you can do in something. But let's get down to our main topic and talk about email marketing. This is just a chart starting with online figures, and this possibly won't be too shocking for you, but this is online retail activity, showing on the left-hand side the starting point pre-COVID, and what happened to the different businesses in the different sectors. And you've got on the bottom two lines show from the normal trading figure on the left-hand side, the travel and experience and attractions just dive bombing down to 20% revenue activity fairly rapidly. And just as interestingly, you've got kind of the retail, media and other increasing up from 100% of what they were doing to like 160%. And I certainly one business I work with, they were doing $200,000 a week, and that went to $400,000 a week. So quite a different story from some of you, I appreciate. And looking at those online sectors, where's that been going? Interesting that on the left hand side we've got toys and games. So everyone's stuck at home. What can they do at home? We need to buy toys, we need to buy games, we need to buy puzzles. Food and drinks been a winner, tobacco, vaping, home garden, everything that you can do at home, your home projects. And you probably, as you walked around your neighborhood, seen everybody's been getting out and cleaning their garage and their paintwork and fixing the gate and all of those things at this time. So certainly some very buoyant stuff going on in the online world at the moment, which has an email's been a significant part of, because email's a natural bedfellow to online, but it works for offline as well. And then some stats around email marketing specifically. This is data from HubSpot, a CRM provider, but what they saw, those bars are the email volume, again rebased to 0% for pre-COVID, and then looking at what happened as the pandemic hit, and suddenly people start sending more emails. So generally speaking, email volume's gone up. And certainly there are some brands who went, oh, better not send any email because there's, stuff going on in the world that's not pleasant. Let's stop it. But mostly brands have actually been sending more email, not less right now, which perhaps is interesting for some of you. And the line on that graph there is the open rate, the email marketing open rate, which shows that actually open rates have been bearing up as well, which is pretty significant. Because generally speaking, if you send more email, the open rate tends to drop. So to see email volumes go up and open rates go up is unusual. That's quite remarkable. It shows that people are spending more time on their inbox, and if anything, people are more receptible to email now than perhaps they've ever been. I don't, I'm going to talk about the fallacy of chasing open rates just very shortly. So whilst I've talked about open rate there, there's a fallacy with trying to chase a high open rate as your goal in email marketing. And I'll certainly going to touch on that in a second. So let's have a touch. I'm just going to have a whiz through just to review what brands have been up to. And hopefully this will give you some inspiration and a chance to ask some questions as well after that. So, for brands, rather than sending those insincere, we're in it together type emails, some of the smarter brands have been sending messages that are helpful. Starbucks, you can't go and buy a Starbucks. Well, you couldn't, you can almost do it now, I think, but you couldn't buy a Starbucks. So what did they do? They email their customers with how to make your vanilla syrup at home, and they give you a recipe with what you need to do to make a Starbucks-like experience. So this is all about, about engaging people with content that keeps the brand there, that keeps the focus there, so that as we come through this, those people had a good engagement, good experience. They liked what they read. No one's going to object to this kind of email, and they're ultimately going to go back and buy a Starbucks. Maybe some people hadn't had one for a while, might go and buy a Starbucks now as a result of that. Obviously, tourism really hit big time. This is a home and away email. So, what do you do if you can't sell any holidays and that your whole market's been temporarily wiped out? They've stayed in contact. They've battened down the hatches, but they certainly stayed in contact and continued to connect by sending out travel-themed emails. This is pretty smart. They've got introducing the Trips board game. They had some virtual tours and some dream holidays. Because people can't travel and can't experience what you do, it doesn't mean to say they don't long to do it as soon as they can. I read the other day that cream tea sales home delivery cream tea sales have gone up massively. Again, people are longing for these little luxuries and have these treats. So, rather than sending emails with, we can't provide you with any travel at the moment, you can provide engaging emails with some sort of travel content. And they also, Home and Away also sent some emails out with, get crafty with the family, fun and games. So not only were they doing travel related content, but they were doing content related to the fact that people were stuck at home and what can they do that's kind of helpful, kind of interesting, content that they would never have run in any other circumstance. I absolutely would never have seen a Get Crafty piece of content from a Home and Away travel brand had it not been for this situation. So, but they're being, point I'm sort of trying to make is they're being inventive and creative and looking at ways they can still be relevant and appropriate in their email marketing through this. Reward. So this is Norwegian Airlines. Again, they can't really sell flights. So what have they been doing? They've been promoting some of their partners, other ways to use their loyalty points. For sure, this email is not going to earn them as much money as if they could have sold a flight, but it's now a chance to help someone else and build a relationship. And we all know, it pays back later when you do this sort of things. If you work to build and help, the people who you help now are going to be that bit more loyal later. And even Bupa getting in on the act. Who would have thought that an email from Bupa with a piece of content at the top there with how to relieve toothache and common dental pain at home. Never would you have had an email from a dentist telling you to relieve your pain at home. other than come and visit us now and get your teeth sorted. So quite amazing DIY dentistry advice from Bupa. But also some other things in this email, as you see, there's how to do some health and fitness, and even a little fun quiz there with some emojis and what dental treatment is this. I'm not sure how fun that would be as a quiz, but they're at least trying to engage people in a meaningful way. And we got Free Agent, a small business accounting system. They're obviously still relevant to their customers anyway, generally speaking. But besides their promotional, they've been mixing in, finding some new ways to connect with their audience by using email as the tool to leverage it. With virtual coffee breaks for freelancers and small businesses. And I've seen a few brands do that type of thing with, look, we can use our email to get people to come together and think about us and think about solving their problems and challenges. As with this is Hall & Woodhouse, obviously a more local brand. Their email was mainly around what they're doing for charity, which is certainly nice, and they've done quite a lot with giving away various things and helping families. It's nice that they've been charitable, but they didn't offer me personally anything in this email, which I found quite a little bit strange. Good to know that they've been supporting the community, but equally, even this time, it's all about me. People don't care about you as a brand. They don't almost, don't care whether you're living, surviving, or whatever. They're worried about themselves, and your email has to be about them and not about yourself. So I thought Hall & Woodhouse could have balanced it slightly nicer. Beerhawk, they run some pubs as well as selling beer online. About, I think, half of their business might have been wiped out because of their pub business is shut. But they tried to recreate that with a virtual pub quiz, Tuesday 8 p.m. Join their virtual pub quiz. They did virtual beer tasting, tried to do a few different things using their email list. Excuse me 1 second. Using their email list to reach out to people. But they carried on to promote beer as well. So they weren't shy about selling at the same time. And I know some people have been like, oh, it's rude to sell at the moment because of the situation. And it really isn't rude to sell at the moment. If people want to buy and the market's still there, there's absolutely no reason not to market and not to sell just as much as you would any other time. I certainly encourage that. And what's coming out, as we're coming out of lockdown in some industries, Starbucks, now sending emails with how we're going to put your mind at rest. It's a coming out of lockdown email, what measures they've taken to make it safe, why you can go and visit them. And they're using their email to explain that and great content. Some brands are just, able to carry on as usual. As I say, if you're still relevant and people are still buying, just carry on doing what you would do. eBay really didn't change their pace very much at all. Their offer, their product, their brand still relevant, and they just carried on selling. I did Brasilismo. They were selling as well. They changed their tone slightly to sort of reflect on the fact you were stuck at home. And Avis, this email's again around, drive with confidence, what we're doing to clean the cars. And down the bottom, there's a long-term offer. They recognize some people don't want to use public transport, and they've got a long-term offer. So they've pivoted their offer slightly. Pasta Evangelists, recreating the home experience. They're a takeaway brand, but they're saying, how can you have that restaurant experience at home? Right, so key factors for success with email. Number one is the audience. If you're selling to a hungry audience, you'll be able to sell with email. If you're selling to someone who's not interested in your brand and not interested in what you offer, absolutely pointless. And this is where buying lists is a really bad idea because they're not your audience. If anyone had ever thought of it or tried doing it, I never encourage that. It's a bad idea. But if you capture your audience, it's the number one thing to get right. Number two is the offer. What you put in the email has the most impact on the success of your email marketing. Number three is the copy. What's the subject line? What are you saying and how are you saying it? And number four is the creative. Copy needs to be human. You need to talk about the customer and talk about them, not you. You need to write for a 12-year-old and not use complex, sophisticated language. Trump, like him or not like him, he uses ridiculously simple language, and he connects with a lot of people because he is very simple in his language. Simple language works even with educated, complex people. Don't tell people that something is exciting. I'm really excited about, just tell them something that they'll find exciting rather than tell them that something is exciting. And if you tell them something that they'll find exciting, then their emotion will come. And too often I kind of see people going, we're really excited to tell you. Just tell them the stuff that they'll find exciting, let them decide about it. Okay, and the creative, if you're selling products, then obviously great high quality product images, professional looking emails. I've focused on a lot of graphical emails in that quick tour, but I wanted to talk briefly about, do emails need to look fancy? Because most people think emails need to look really fancy, and that's very wrong. They don't need to look fancy at all. This is from Naked Wines. It's very typical of what Naked Wines sell. They've certainly been very successful. Every wine bottle looks the same. There is little point in them having a picture of a wine bottle in their email, so they don't. They send really nice copy emails, which are really engaging, very well written. This one is a pre-COVID era email, but it's very typical. And just as a sort of an example, there was a split test from Trusted House Sitters where they sent out an email that looked like that. On the left, very graphical, full of pets, full of cats. You can't go wrong. Cats always fill on the internet. They tried it against a plain text version, a very, very long, plain kind of formatted email. And that one on the right got 560% more transactions. So just think about, if you're offering a service, actually just some really nice copy to connect with someone, it can be so much better than having a load of fancy graphics. And email marketing doesn't need to be fancy, zany graphics. If it's a fashion brand, you're going to have graphics. If it's a very product-based business, you're going to have some graphics. If it's a service-based thing, you can do it just copy like this. So. And I've done no end of emails with plain versus graphical, and the plain always astonishes everybody who ever sees it. It always works well. Don't forget, 50% of people are going, or 42% are going to be reading on a mobile device, so make sure your emails work on a mobile as well. Very quickly, what is email success? I mentioned about open rates. Don't chase open rates per se. Because whilst as you send more emails, open rates go down, they're not very representative of what you're looking for. What you're actually looking for is to drive opens, clicks, and results. And to some extent, more email is more result. And there's a sweet spot. And this particular data I've just shown you, the sweet spot is for fashion brands, and it's 6.2 emails per week. Obviously different brands will have a different perfect frequency, but if you're sending one email a month, you may well be able to double it to 2 emails a month, and you'll get better result because you'll simply drive more engagement. Even if the open rate does reduce a little bit, you'll still end up with more. Okay. And lastly, sending emails is about having good content, good offers. And I said, offer was number 2 on the list. For email, number 1 is the audience, offers number 2, and by offer I'm talking about not just the commercial offer, but what you're offering within the email. Is it engaging content? Is it useful information? What are you doing there? That does take effort to produce, and one solution to that is to use content curation. And this particular brand, Fallacy, and many others like it, they will find interesting content and articles out on the internet, and they'll just send their kind of like little take on it and link to the original article, so that they'll save themselves the effort of creating a lot of content by finding content that is related to their brand and their type of business and send information about it. So that can be a good way of having an engaging email. All right, that was pretty lightning fast. Ask me anything. We've got a few minutes now. I've tried to be fast to leave time for questions. You can certainly connect with me afterwards. Happy to spend 10, 15 minutes on the phone with someone, answering any kind of your key questions, just to help right now. So anything you've got to ask, whether it's list growth, GDPR technology, subject line segmentation, nurture spam, can you use free in the subject line? Yes, you can actually. What's the best time of day to send? I've got a really good answer for that one. And anything you've heard or you've been worried about, there's a lot of myths out on the internet. You can read a lot of articles, and it will be kind of like 80% and 20% maybe half correct. So there's a lot of information on the internet, as well as good information. So yeah, there we go. I hope that was interesting. It was fast. Let's open it up and ask me questions.
Great, thanks, Tim. Appreciate that a great deal. If you could just take off the slides, and then people can see each other, and then we'll be ready to answer any questions.
There we go.
Excellent. I can't quite see everyone because there's so many people on the call, but anyone want to have a go first?
I have a question. Can't see myself. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have a list of people who opted in, because I've not been doing that. I don't want to do a newsletter because you have to keep sending it out, have to work out what to say. But do you think people would respond to an opt-in to be kept in touch by email?
Do people respond to email?
No, would they respond to an opt-in on GDPR opt-in to be emailed?
How are you going to ask them?
Well, would you like to be kept in touch with?
Yeah, sure. So do people opt into emails? Yes, they do, without question. It's all about the touch point of where you find them and the offer again that you're going to give them. So, if you've got people coming to a website and you provide some sort of opt-in mechanism on there, whether it's a pop-up, which everybody hates and they really work great. It's go fathom that one. But everyone says, oh, pop-ups, I hate pop-ups. Don't use pop-ups. And every time I've used a pop-up on a website, everyone's gone, wow, we were so wrong. So pop-up, people look for instant gratification in terms of a reason to give an email address. So that could be it could be an offer, it could be 10% off, it could be some free shipping, it could be a download of some information, it could be entry into something. There's got to be generally it's good to have a reason why people should give you an email address that's an instant payoff. You can obviously just say we're going to send you occasional newsletter, we're going to send you interesting articles, but yeah, I mean, people do opt in, so I don't know if that's
Yeah,
I mean, there's a whole there's a whole massive industry that are working. Hey, Rob.
Great, thanks, Rob.
Yeah, can I ask a quick supplementary on that? I mean, your commentary pop-ups is really interesting. Have you got a feel for what sort of period of time you should leave a pop-up before it appears? I mean, is it 10 seconds? Is it 20, 30? Does it vary by sector?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really like the intelligent pop-ups that don't come up the moment you hit the website, but actually have a break. Your gut reaction and my gut reaction, some years ago was, oh, pop-up, should probably leave it, like a minute or two before, so people have experienced the website and started to feel engaged about it. And the stark reality was 10 seconds was best. That actually hitting people fairly quickly was better than waiting too long. Partly because people have already left the website by the time you get to 2 minutes. You can use exit intent pop-ups as well, so that as people go to exit the website, those pop up. But yeah, I would go for starting with 10 seconds every time.
I think people have got more used to it, and it's therefore acceptable to be a bit faster with the pop-up.
Sure. Jane?
I just think the trouble with pop-ups is if they keep popping up every time you go back to the website, and it's not intelligent enough to not do that.
Yeah, so there's you've got it 100%. There are intelligent pop-up solutions which you can do it after someone's been on the website. Don't show it again after X visits. Don't show it, show it on this page and not that. But so I'd always use an intelligent pop-up solution where you can control kind of that. And there's lots out there. Privy, Sleep Note, and many others.
Yeah. Jane?
Yeah, I've got a different question. And I think it might be quite interesting for lots of people who aren't doing much email marketing yet. I always find it a bit fiddly sorting out the lists. So when we've got a big newsletter list, we just keep adding to that list in the email client. We use something based on Campaign Monitor, which is quite similar to MailChimp.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're doing smaller mailings and you do need to keep changing who's on the list, how do you manage it? Do you manage it within your separate system and then keep re-uploading your email list? And I'm quite happy to hear what other people say about this as well.
Yeah, the kind of the data management issue. So it really depends on where the truth is. Where's the gospel version of your data? Now, some people have a CRM system of some sort which is their master database. Some people don't really have a CRM system, and actually they use the email solution as the CRM.
Yeah.
In which case, that answers that. If you have a CRM system
elsewhere as well, then I'm almost answering my own question, aren't I? You've almost got to keep it elsewhere and then re-upload. It's just it's so annoying having to change data in lots of different places.
Yeah, no, it's painful and it takes time, and we don't have time.
No.
My first resort is if you've got a separate system to the email platform where the data sits, then is there a way of synchronizing them automatically? MailChimp synchronizes it with various CRMs. If you can afford to have a custom made one, fine. But using technology to do the synchronization. And the other thing on some of the solutions like MailChimp and Campaign Monitor, I can't remember, but using tagging is quite an effective way to manage the data without having that kind of like I'm uploading, downloading, reloading data nightmare that goes on. So just in a practical way, synchronization and tagging.
Great, thank you. Any other hands? Can't see at the moment. Tim, on your
Lulu.
Sorry, there is one there. Jackie.
Jackie, yeah. Isn't it? Yeah, not Lulu.
Yeah, Lulu's my daughter. What would you say to someone like me who doesn't have the internet capacity, and my software, my booking software where I keep where I've got my database is so outdated because I can't update it because I can't put it on the cloud because of my poor internet. How would you suggest I access email marketing?
Wow. Move house. Gosh. Yeah, sorry about that. They're all online solutions. There's like one or two that were offline solutions, and they really don't work. So you can't do it. So either you're going to have to, you either have to use a 4G connection if you can get a 4G. You have to use someone else who can do the email marketing for you, and you can send them. I mean, how are you connecting now on this call?
I have got a 4G, but I've to be honest, I've missed most of it because it kept coming in and out, so I didn't hear a lot of what you were saying. And whilst when it's okay, it's okay, but I can't rely on it because if everything I rely on is internet based, and then it drops out for a day, which it frequently does, I'm knackered.
Wow, that's a nightmare, isn't it? I'm so sorry for you.
It's horrendous.
The good thing, Jackie, is you can listen to it all again on the recording on the website. And of course, you can come to the Thatcher Cottage in Brockenhurst, excellent Wi-Fi with a lovely cup of tea, and do all your emails from there. Excellent. One last question from anyone. Fascinating, Tim, your comparison between...
We did have a question there.
The one coming?
Yeah, there was. Thank you. I found that absolutely fascinating. And Tim, I love how much information you just got into that time frame. You said that number one was the audience, which was kind of my query around it. I work with independent businesses in the New Forest in Southampton from every sector you can imagine. And what might be relevant to a home improvement specialist might not be relevant, well, wouldn't be relevant to a retailer or an attraction or something like that. So would you kind of come up with your content based on like 4, say, categories, and try and put your contacts into one of those categories and then send the relevant, what you think would be most relevant to them out?
Yeah, so if you've got totally different needs within the audience, then yes, that audience is segmented. And I was cheating slightly by saying the audience, because I was not meaning kind of just the database, but also the segments within that database if you have got it. So don't over segment. That can be really painful. So be as broad as you can in your segments, and only get more specialized if you have to, would be my guidance. But yeah, do segment and tag them, or another, you find some way. They all have ways to segment them, but yeah, you'd need to segment it a little bit.
That's great, thank you.
Great, thank you. I can't see any hands waving. But no, Tim, that particularly that slide with the difference between a very visual and a text-based email and the 556%, I suspect most people were surprised by that. But
yeah. Well, as soon as people get an email that looks graphical, they go, marketing. If you get an email which says, "Hello, Sue," they're engaged.
It's interesting. Not that we're experts in any way, but in the hotel, by keeping in contact with a weekly email, we've just been writing a letter just like that and saying, this is what's happening and thank you for your support and so on. I suspect we'll go back to pretty pictures of ponies before long. But it's a different kind of communication at the moment.
It feels more personal, and people love that.
Great. Okay, well, you've raised so many different points, and thank you for that. And I'm sure people will be rushing to their computers afterwards, but also will be watching back again and following up. But what I would suggest to people, because there's a range of experience from none to everything, just send me a quick email to contact@nfbp.org.uk if there's another 20-minute nugget on one particular issue that's been mentioned. Because inevitably, a lot of these calls are very generic. But if it's GDPR again, because there's still some people who think you can only email people who've said yes. That's not true. If they bought something from you, you can email them. Yeah. And there's all sorts of little nuggets we can help you with. So just ping me a short email saying, can we do a session on this? And we'll put it on for you and set those up. Just to give you a quick heads up then, before we do our final goodbye, what's coming next? Next week is without an expert. It's a full discussion because you are the experts, we are the experts, because we're talking about planning at the moment. There are 2 kinds of planning you need to be doing. One is continuity planning. How will I survive now? But also, how will I build my business back up again in the future? And that's recovery planning. And the team at Matt's team at NFDC are doing something on New Forest wide. But also each one of us needs to be just thinking about that. How will I survive now? And how will I respond to the upturn when it comes? And so we're just going to talk generally and just support each other with continuity planning and business recovery planning. There's no expert on recovering from coronavirus because no one's yet done it. So we are going to talk to each other on that call. The following one is on business insurance. There have been some real issues around this, and from success stories to people who are really angry. So we'll talk that through. And then the third one to flag up in the following week, 17th of June, Rebecca, who's here from Purple Dog, is just going to bring us up to date on some of the changes that have been going on social media, particularly on business pages. because social media is another way you can keep in touch with people. But thank you all for your time today. You have emails, Tim's email address on the top of the chat there. Do please get in touch. Thank you very much, Tim. Really appreciate all of that. And it's 4 o'clock, so time to say goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.